Welcome to Benched with the Tovar Brothers. With your hosts, Joey, Gabe, and Angel.
Little different.
Little different.
Little new.
It felt weird screaming at someone else's house. I am currently in my in-laws' room in San Diego, California. Angel's actually downstairs, and Gabe is back at the studio in Canoga Park. So, little different show today. This is Benched, and we are the Tovar Brothers, nonetheless, coming to you from all different parts of California, and super pumped. Wednesday, August 1st. Hello, August.
So
Isn't that nuts?
August 1st.
It's crazy. Now, I know we had this conversation about celebrating Halloween too early. Now it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay time to start doing the Halloween stuff right now. It's okay.
Actually, it's the August 2nd by the time this is seen on
Wednesday.
Yeah,
August 2nd. So even more so. Okay.
Wow.
Even more so. So it's an extra day.
August 1st. We're already there.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And that means we're closer to football. September always means football. One more month.
We're very close to football. In fact, tomorrow is football.
Yep.
Tomorrow is football. I think we got the starters for that. And then we got Kellen Mond versus Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson out there.
So
look, maybe the Jets are out there saying like maybe we could trade Zach Wilson if he plays well in the preseason. Trade him for
this
some
might
draft
be
picks that we lost.
This might be like an audition for him. So he really does have a lot to lose.
I doubt this is where he saw himself in his career. Starting the Hall of Fame game, auditioning for maybe another job.
I imagine he's not making it hell for Aaron Rodgers, like as he said he would. Remember last year, he's quoted, "I'll make a living hell for whoever I'm backing up."
I think maybe the one guy he thought he wouldn't be saying that about is Aaron Rodgers.
Mr. Aaron Rodgers.
I don't think he would have said it.
But that's tough.
Young guy's going to talk. Before we get into it, let's thank the Instagram followers, the Twitter, Instagram, the X followers. And all you people out there on TikTok following the show, thank you so much for your support.
Yeah, on some of my devices, it's still marked as Twitter. Ever, I'm just gonna leave those forever. Still has a little Twitter icon on it. I'm gonna leave that like there.
Well, the app is X now, right? But then when I go there online, it's still Twitter.com. So Elon's not quite finished switching it over, but it is X, and we all got to live with it. Also, for the followers here on YouTube and Apple, Spotify, wherever you hear your podcast, thank you so much for your support. And let's get into it because there's a lot of news going on, and we want to get into the NFC West because it's a great division. Starting with the news, unfortunately, this is not a great way to start, but it's on top of my list. Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick, Broncos receiver, tore his Achilles, and for the second straight year, Tim Patrick has suffered a season-ending injury in training camp. That's
this is tough because there was some Bronco reporters, because I'm a Bronco fan, obviously, so I follow them on Twitter. They were saying that he was having the best camp out of the wideouts was Tim Patrick. They would lose him this early, and then for his career, for him personally, back-to-back years of devastating knee injuries. And this is to the opposite leg, so now he has two knees that have been surgically operated on. Sucks.
Yeah, rough break.
Also something to
yeah.
No, I was just kind of add on to what Angel said. It's definitely going to add on to his career moving forward too. Where even if he gets let go by the Broncos, it's going to be really hard to convince a team that he's worth taking a shot on. So really, really rough situation for Patrick.
Yeah, because of what he has shown on the field, he'll get another shot. But Gabe said coming back from ACL and now an Achilles is just a tough way to go. Speaking of which,
rough.
We don't know what happened, but someone who also is coming back from a ACL injury is Cooper Kupp, and it was reported that he left practice with the trainers, didn't return to practice, and Sean McVay has not given an update. So we wish for the best there, fear the worst, obviously, but hopefully nothing's wrong with Cooper Kupp, and he's coming back because we've seen I've never seen an offense run through one receiver so much.
That's the reason why they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Was
really you
Matt
think of the
Stafford
Super Bowl where their offense was sputtering for 3.5 quarters, and then they go to Cooper Kupp. So that terrible way to start the news too. Injuries there, but training camp's happening, and that happens. We had Gabe's favorite tight end, OJ Howard, released from the Raiders.
Sorry, Gabe.
It's not noticeable news, but I just thought it's kind of funny because it's OJ Howard and Gabe's boy. A couple other small signings, but we won't get into those. Raiders are just very interesting, and these running backs with the holdouts, it's just a very interesting headline game between management and the players, and different things coming out, and we don't know what's true. And I'll just read what we know from the Raiders situation. A report came out via Josina Anderson that Raiders are open to restarting talks with the franchise tagged running back Josh Jacobs. Raiders head coach Josh McDaniels on Josh Jacobs. We're going to look forward to getting him back and integrated into the group. And while he did say that, the Raiders did work out free agent running backs Damian Williams and Rex Burkhead. So, what do you guys? What's your take on the situation? It's a mess.
That's sending a great message to your guy that you just said you want to open up negotiations with. Awesome, Raiders.
Yeah.
This is just a way. This is just I won't bash on Raiders. I'll just bash on the market for running backs. It's tough. Get a contract as soon as you can, and just it's tough.
Yeah, if your kid's out there playing ball, maybe teach them how to run routes or read a defense.
Rush the passer a little bit. Yeah.
Teach them how to kick a ball. Just teach them how to kick a ball, man, and just be accurate.
Oh man, yeah, it's crazy. Kind of true as well. So we'll see what happens there with Josh Jacobs. I read that he's not even in Las Vegas. He left Las Vegas.
Holy crap!
It's a hold. That is a holdout right there. Moving over to the Colts, of course. The Jonathan Taylor saga going on with Irsay's comments earlier this week or last week. I forgot exactly when they were. But his backup and the person who would get all the carries if he did hold out, Zach Moss, suffered a broken arm in practice, and he'll miss about 6 weeks. And so they have Deion Jackson, I think, behind him, and I'm not sure who else. I don't know if anyone else has gotten real NFL carries. So they're in a tough position there in Indy. The backup's gone, the starter's pissed, and who knows what's going to happen.
Now these running back situations.
Good.
No, just these running back situations across the league are just getting so awful for running backs. Like, no matter how good you are or whatever, if you have 1 year, that's not the same. They'll say, well, you fell off. Like, if you get injured one time, you got injured one time. It's tough out there, man. I feel for these guys.
Yeah.
Some good news here, and this is cool to see. Broncos running back Javonte Williams, who we're all excited about. Broncos fans were very pumped about him when he broke on the scene. He's returning from an ACL injury as well, but the report came out that he has not been limited in any capacity so far in camp, and tomorrow will be his first day off. And I think it's a planned thing, and that's kind of how they'll be going forward. Some scheduled days off to get him integrated back into that offense. Good news there in Denver. We won't speak about it too much so far. We'll see what happens, but that's what's going on there. The Seahawks, they also have a running back situation. Running backs really dominating the headlines in this preseason now that I'm reading through this, but both of their guys are hurt. So Kenneth Walker, the rookie from last year who was so just sensational, he is week to week with a groin injury, and I hate groin injuries in skill position players. It's just a tough one to get over. It's the kind of thing that seems to linger all year.
Yeah, he'll definitely have that for the rest of the year.
Right.
For the rest of the year, he's going to be battling it. It sucks.
Right. To Kenneth Walker, week to week with the groin injury, and the rookie that they drafted in the second round this year, Zach Charbonnet, I believe, out of UCLA. He has missed 2 practices in a row with shoulder discomfort. Don't know what that's about.
Jeez.
Wow. They just started hitting, so I'm not sure what happened to him. I don't have any details on that, but he's missing practice. Kenneth Walker's out. Rough situation there. Obviously, Pete Carroll wants to run the ball. That's what Pete Carroll does. That's what Pete Carroll's always done. Take care of the ball, run the ball, and we'll see with their 2 top backs, 2 very promising backs on the mend this early in camp. Good news is there's a lot of camp left, a lot of time before the season starts. So we'll see about that. Kalijah Cansey, the Bucks' first-round pick, he will also miss 4 weeks with a strained calf injury. So a lot of injuries going on here in camp. We'll keep you updated as they go. And one more bit of news that I saw on Twitter that I thought was pretty cool. Anthony Richardson, and we talked about him a lot, especially in the fantasy aspect. He got all the starting reps in their practices. So he right now is getting starting reps right off the bat. There's only so many reps, and you want to give your starter the reps. You don't see coaches play around with that too much. Like they give the reps to the guys that they think are going to be in the game. And so with him getting that many reps, and really for him, that's the name of the game because he played so little football in Florida. Even I think barely more football than Josh Allen played when he came out. And so that's kind of the biggest thing for him. So for him to get this much run this early bodes really well for him starting early, which I don't know if that's going to help him as a team, but fantasy wise, that's what you want to see. That's what you want to hear. Get him in there as soon as you can and start rushing for 100 yards a game. I don't care whatever you throw for is extra.
A deep sleeper in fantasy. Make sure you mark him on your boards for sure.
For sure.
100%.
That's all I got. You guys got anything I missed as far as news?
No, just
notable.
I'm just apparently Justin Fields has the most bets I forgot in which sports book for him to be MVP.
Wow. Yeah.
So people are not overlooking that. This is not that it's getting a little too much, but it's getting a little too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's good. Let's not overwhelm the guy, you know?
Well, that could be, too, not just them, not just people thinking he's actually going to win MVP, but just the odds being so good that if he did pull it out, it's a big cash out. So, I mean, we'll see. I probably wouldn't put my money on him for MVP, but I guess you never know. We are wrapping up today our divisional breakdown. Yeah.
I got an update 14 minutes ago on Cooper Kupp. He has a hamstring injury. He walked off the field with the medical staff during today's practice. Team currently not able to share the timetable for this, but now we know at least it's a hamstring.
Did it specify which leg?
No, it just said Rams spokesman. So it's from the Rams. They said this. They don't have timeline on it.
A common thing for people recovering from an ACL is to then have hamstring problems when they start to ramp up. I know it happened with Chris Godwin last year, and I believe J.K. Dobbins. So good to know that it's not his knee. Good to know it's nothing structural to his knee or ankle. We'll keep an eye on that. Like I was saying, we are wrapping up our divisional breakdown today, and it's been fun. We saved, I think, maybe not the best for last, but one of the best for last in the NFC West, a division that it feels like all of these teams in the last 5 years have been Super Bowl contenders. It feels like all these teams just are always going for it, always trying to win a chip. They've had good quarterback play. They've had great coaching. And, some of these teams are down right now. There's obviously the Rams and the Cardinals had terrible seasons last year, records-wise. But the bounce back you can see isn't too far away. Let's jump into it here with the Los Angeles Rams. Of course, last year, just decimated by injury. You remember they ramped up. They're going to go for their back-to-back title. They signed Bobby Wagner and bring in all these vets to kind of make that Super Bowl run, and it just didn't go the way that they hoped. Massive injuries in the offensive line, and then of course Cooper Kupp and eventually Matthew Stafford go down, and it was just, I think at the end of the year, you had John Wolford, then you bring in Baker Mayfield to start, and it was just waving the white flag there with this before the season had ended. They finished the season 5-12, not great. They didn't have a lot of draft picks, of course, because they make a habit of trading away those draft picks. So
F them picks, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, they traded a ring for it. I can't say I wouldn't do the same exact thing.
Yeah, they'd probably do it all over again. But this is the time where it's going to cost you a little bit not having those picks. They did draft a guard out of TCU that a lot of people seem to like, Steve Avila. He's probably a starter right away. They lose not too much either. They lose Baker Mayfield and John Wolford, which isn't who they wanted starting for them last year anyway, kind of more of a stopgap. But they also lose Allen Robinson and just a failed attempt to revive his career.
Yeah.
Leonard Floyd goes over to the Bills, I believe. Ashawn Robinson, Bobby Wagner goes back to the Seahawks. We'll talk about that later. Troy Hill gone. Jalen Ramsey traded to the Dolphins. And Taylor Rapp now with the Bills as well. Nick Scott also played a lot of safety for them, and he is gone as well. They didn't add too much. I have the wrong additions here for them. But they didn't add too much aside from, I think, the draftees. I think I have the Cardinals additions here. Kaiser White, Pascal, and Chris Barnes, they all went to the Cardinals. But But yeah, so
But
pretty much
real
running
quick,
it back with this team. I think they just added a backup tight end, Hunter Long, right? I think that's it.
that was in the deal for Jane Ramsey. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, they literally added no one. This is a run it back team. They're hoping that with Stafford coming back and Cooper Kupp coming back, they can kind of recatch the magic. That right off the bat, you're shaking your head, Angel. I don't like it either. Just hearing
Let's just call it what it is. They couldn't get out of the Stafford deal. They signed Cooper Kupp. They're letting everyone go. They're clearly starting over. Their defense is a bunch of no names. I've guaranteed anyone besides Aaron Donald. They're not going to be maybe 7 wins this year. I don't see this team being very, very effective.
Yeah, I don't love the run it back situation they're doing here. Something interesting they did do this offseason is draft Stetson Bennett, the quarterback of Georgia. That he was very successful in his college career, and he's an interesting prospect. Wasn't highly project. It wasn't projected to go very high in the draft, and he didn't. And we'll see if he at some point breaks through and takes Stafford's job, which I don't know. We'll see. And that's really the question with this team is this going to work? Gabe, do you think? I mean, what do you think?
I mean, it just kind of sounds like what Andrew just said is going to be pretty much on par. This team's running it back with a bad team. But again, I would like to just add. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. This is the result of winning a ring a few years ago. You'd have no young talent. You couldn't bring guys in. You got the Stafford deal where you're paying them a ton of cash. You're not going to be able to bring guys in. But
right.
This is the benefit of it. You are a Super Bowl champ still. So
right.
I think it's something that they could. They're going to have to endure, but I have a lot of faith in the LA Rams. Since they came to LA, they have been a competing team. I like what you said earlier about this, these teams in the NFC West. They're always competing, and I think Sean McVay has too much of a chip on his shoulder just to go out as like a losing coach. So endure. That's really all I could say when it comes to the Rams. When it comes to the Ram fans, you just simply have to endure it.
Right. Let's get into the fantasy aspect here. Buys and sells in this team, because it is still a very interesting team when it comes to fantasy.
It is,
because Stafford's been useful, Kupp's been the best receiver in the league, and Akers has his fair share of success, as well as Tyler Higbee. And so when you think of buys and sells here, it is kind of a who's going to run? Who's going to be able to run it back? Because who's going to come back and be that same guy? Because they have guys coming off injury, and just a host of things. We'll get into our buys here. Angel, go ahead and start us off. Who's your buy?
My buy is tight end number 9, Tyler Higbee. Now, last year, finished tight end 9. Okay, the only reason why he did because he only had 3 touchdowns, but you could blame that partly on a little bit of bad luck and a lot of it on Baker Mayfield and whoever else they sent out there for a quarterback. He had 20% target share last year, but actually averaged more targets when they had Cooper Kupp on the field, as he acted as the second wideout. And they didn't really change the wideout room. So it's the same guys, Cooper Kupp, plus those wideouts and Higbee. He's kind of their best second wideout at a position where tight end, we're looking for value. We're looking for quality backups. We're looking for guys who could be top 5, top 7. I think he's a great buy. You probably don't even have to draft him, which is crazy. You could probably just pick him after the draft or later in the draft. I think barring a lot of things have to happen for him to be good. Stafford stay healthy for the whole season. I think he'd be a top 8 tight end for sure, just based on targets, on volume.
I mean, yeah, I think that could. It's hard to argue that with the tight end position, because you get to that point with these guys where you just find the guy you believe in and go with that guy. So whether it's Njoku, Higbee, whoever, all these tight ends that are kind of just going to give you some top 10 weeks and then are going to give you some weeks where they're not in the top 30. You kind of just have to play that game. It's Higbee, you like the consistency, you like the quarterback play, at least, pre-injury from Stafford. So
yeah,
hard to argue that. Gabe, who's your buy?
So McVay was recently on Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports radio, and he was praising Akers a lot on there, saying that he had a strong offseason and will be, quote, a huge part of what the Rams do in 2023. Proceeded to call him a stud, said that he's in a great place physically, mentally, and maturity-wise.
Yeah.
I'm buying Cam Akers here. I think the Rams don't have too much to work with offensively. That's a sure thing. I'm not saying Cam Akers is a for sure thing, but I think he's probably the thing that an aging quarterback is going to have to rely on just a little bit more. I love the praise that McVay has coming out as we move into the preseason. I'm buying Cam Akers. I know a lot of people are going to hate that, and I get it. I understand the history with Cam Akers, but I think the Rams are kind of, they kind of have their backs against the wall here. I think Cam is going to be somebody that, at least fantasy wise, is going to take going to have a lot of chances here.
Yeah, Cam. So to give a little more context about what Cam Akers has gone through, not only did he tear his Achilles and have to recover from that and come back, very obviously in his rookie season, going into his second year, but he also had the whole drama with the Rams organization and with McVay, where he left the team and wasn't a part of it, and you thought, okay, they're going to trade this guy, and he's never going to play for the Rams again, and then all of a sudden, curveball, they trade Darrell Henderson, who was the guy that McVay was going to, and they keep Akers, and he actually finishes the season with at least 100 yards and a touchdown in the last 6 games.
It was quite the ordeal.
Yeah, very interesting. Akers, of course, as a rookie, was very impressive. One of those rookie running backs that you would want on your team in fantasy. He's also my buy. I think toward the end of that season, he came back and showed that he still had that in him. He could still carry this offense if need be, because they had no one at the end of that season, and he was literally carrying that offense. And he's my buy as well. I like him. They did nothing to replace him. They did sign Sony Michel. He practiced once and retired. They recently signed Royce Freeman. I wouldn't be worried about him as far as fantasy. They have 7th rounders Zach Evans and Ronnie Rivers and Kyron Williams from last year. None of those guys strike me as someone who's going to take work away from Cam Akers and what we saw last year. He's my buy as well. I like him. And with what he has shown in the NFL, he's one of those guys that you can draft later that has legit top 5 potential. I think with how he was in the beginning, he can catch the ball if need be. He could obviously rack it up on the ground. He's my buy for sure.
Yeah.
My sell, I was going to get started on that. I'm selling Matt Stafford. I love Matthew Stafford. I love his toughness. I love his personality. I love his big game. Honestly, let's just say it, the guy has balls in the biggest moments. Like, he is just the man. So easy to root for. But I think it's catching up with him. I think that the body's beginning to break down. I don't know if he's going to be able to come back and be that guy anymore. And even if you've had him in fantasy the last couple of years, you know that although he's giving you some good games, he's lost you some weeks too, because he gives you nothing with his legs. So unless he's throwing touchdowns, multiple touchdowns in a game, he's not very usable. So my sell is Matt Stafford. Ains, who's yours?
This ties into my Higbee buy, was that he was the number 2 passing option. I'm selling every other wideout on this team. Let me read you this depth chart. You tell me who you're going to draft. Van Jefferson, Ben Skoranek, Tutu Atwell, and Demarcus Robinson. The best year out of any of them was Van Jefferson 2 years ago with 802 yards.
Wow.
The part where the running back, this is the part where it will hurt them. They still don't have another wideout since OBJ to complement Cooper Kupp. It's the same guys. You don't even have to do a lot of research. Go to last year's research. It's the same thing. I don't see Stafford. Maybe if he does all 17 games, maybe one of these guys has a game or two. I'm taking Kupp or Higbee passing wise, and that's it. I'm selling every other wideout on this team. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, I'm with that. Gabe, who's yourself?
Yeah, I like that. Angel kind of pointing out there's not really a lot of options there. Joey, you point out how Stafford has a lot of things stacked against him. So I think the natural sell has to be Matthew Stafford here. His ADP is currently at QB 22. Jordan Love is actually going before him.
Wow.
I think that says a lot of stuff for Jordan Love's quarterback that's not even really doesn't really have hardly any film out there. He battles the injuries. Angel made a great point about there's not really much that's going on there that he's gonna have to play with. He's just a sell to me. I think there's too many things going against him at this point in his career. I could stand up and give him an applause and say it was. I mean, I'm not saying his career's over, but I just don't think as far as the fantasy side, he's there if you're trying to win your league.
Yeah, I hate to go in on the guy because I love Matt Stafford.
No,
But,
yeah, he's very likable guy. Very
I just
likable
think
guy.
I think his usefulness in fantasy is just at an end, and I think Gabe said it well. What's that?
Yeah. No, I remember Stafford with that one clip when he was a rookie. Remember when he was NFL Films where it was against Cleveland, I think.
One of the
He
best
threw a
NFL clips
touchdown and he dislocated his shoulder and he
Yeah.
and he
kept
went right
playing.
back in.
That's where the league fell in love with him. Like, oh, this guy's a gamer. He plays for the Lions. He's a gamer. So
Rams finished last year 5-12. I mean,
same.
Do they reach 500? Do you see that for them?
They probably have 6-7 wins in them. I'm not putting a lot on them because I'm not expecting a lot out of them.
Unfortunately, I mean, I don't know how to say that, but I would like to see Stetson Bennett if things start to go south. I think it would be wise for them to see what they have there. Even they obviously have crazy loyalty to Matthew Stafford, and he deserves it. He brought a Super Bowl to town, and he's been so great for them. But
by week 10 or 11, if it starts to kind of fall apart,
let's see what Stetson has. The end is near for Stafford. We think. Hopefully, he proves us wrong. I'd love to see him go out there and light it up.
Oh yeah,
but
for sure.
If not, I'd love to see Stetson Bennett get a shot. Not very high hopes though for the Los Angeles Rams, but we'll stay with him and we'll be rooting for him. That's our hometown, not our team, but that's our hometown. So we stay very interested in the Rams and the Chargers, but more the Rams. Let's move on to the I almost said St. Louis Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals. They play football. They finished last year 4-13. When I saw the Rams record, I said, "Wow, damn, 5-12. That's rough." Then I went to the Cardinals, 4-13. Holy
even
crap!
rough. Yeah.
They had a terrible year last year. They just really struggled in every aspect. Of course, Kyler goes down with the ACL. They had the preseason drama with the whole gaming situation with Kyler Murray, and then they have some upper management issues as the season goes on. I think the GM's gone. The strength training
stuff happened there.
Yeah, all sorts of nonsense going on there in the building. They clean house. They bring in a new coach, Jonathan Gannon, from the Philadelphia Eagles, of course, and we'll see how they go. He hasn't got off to the best start. He was, of course, penalized a 3rd-round pick for tampering, but they have done some really good work when it comes to their draft capital and and the players they brought in this year. Let me go through it real quick here. Paris Johnson, the enormous offensive tackle from Ohio State, comes to town. Yeah. BJ Ojulari, a very good pass rusher, comes in from LSU, and I like the cornerback from Syracuse, Garrett Wilson. They brought in the 3rd round. I think he has a chance to play right away, especially with Byron Murphy moving on this off season. They add some players, which from the Eagles, which makes sense because Gannon's from the Eagles. He brings over Kaiser White and Zach Pascal. Gabe, this guy Chris Barnes. He comes over.
Chris Barnes, very well.
He's now here. They're very excited about him because they believe that he can free up Isaiah Simmons, I believe. Not Isaiah Simmons.
This phenomenal athlete that no one knows what to do with because he's.
Well, let's see if Jonathan Gannon could unlock him. It's obviously for a defensive coordinator. I'm sure all these guys want to be the one who can unlock the guy. So we'll see what he does with him. They lose Trace McSorley, Darrell Williams, Chosen Anderson, Farrell Cooper, AJ Green, Max Williams, and of course released released DeAndre Hopkins. So that's DeAndre Hopkins no longer in town. The latest update that I could find on Kyler Murray was that he most likely was not going to be ready for week 1. I believe he got injured in week 14, so later in the season. I don't know what we're going to see there. We'll get into the fantasy aspect of that, which I think is massive implications there from that injury. But first, let's get into them as a team. I just read that those are just the skill position players they lost. They lost a lot of players on the offensive line, which, given wasn't that great. They lose Cody Ford, Max Garcia, Justin Pugh, Rodney Hudson, and Billy Price. On the defensive line, they lose Marcus Golden, J.J. Watt, Zach Allen, and then Byron Murphy in the back end there. And defensively, a lot of talent heads out of town. Quarterbacks on the mend. They are set up next year to get a new quarterback if they want to here with this new coaching staff, new GM. I think it's going to be kind of a resetting year here for the Cardinals, more of a culture
year. It's gonna be a tough one. Buckle in. It's gonna be hard to watch sometimes.
Yeah, unfortunately, because they had so much promise when Kyler was going, D-Hop, they brought him into town. James Conner kind of revived his career here, and they had such high hopes, and just it hasn't worked out. Let's get into their fantasy buy sell quickly here. I'm gonna give both mine real quick. Zach Ertz is my buy because I don't know what the quarterback situation will be, and I think just the veteran security blanket, Zach Ertz, will be whoever's target. Whoever's behind center, he's going to be the target. He's going to be the easy target. And I think he'll eat right away and give you, I don't know about huge games, but consistency at the tight end position, which if you don't get the stars, sometimes that's all you want is who's going to get me, 10 plus points every single week. I go Zach Ertz, and I'm going to sell Rondell Moore. I'm sick of waiting for it. I'm sick. I've heard the athlete he is. I've heard how good he is with the ball, after the catch, and how good of a route runner he is and how quick he is. And all those things are true. It hasn't happened on the field, and I'm kind of just done waiting for it. I think he's the clear number 2 behind Marquise Brown, and I'm out on Rondell Moore. Ainge?
Yeah, actually, I'll just echo that because my sales actually run on more. His ADP right now is 10.7, and when I was doing the research for this, I never realized his stats were so unproven. I'll just be nice about it. He's never topped 435 yards in a season. His only touchdown, he's only had 2 career touchdowns, and all this hype he's gotten for back-to-back years. It's just the guy who you see on practice, you think is going to be really good, put him in a game and nothing happens, whether that's bad luck, whether that's injury, whether that's whatever. It just hasn't happened yet. And with Kyler Murray being unknown when he'll come back, backup quarterbacks can't really support 2 wideouts, let alone a slot specialist. I'm out on him. But my buy is actually James Conner. When he's healthy, last year he was RB4 overall in the last 8 games. And I say in 8 games because he missed the rest of the season either completely or he left early. Yeah. So James Conner is always going to be the same guy if he has the same role this year. He played over 90% of the team snaps in 5 games. Anytime you see a running back play 90%, you buy him immediately. That's part of the reason why Dameon Pierce was so hot last year because he played so much snaps. But this year they didn't add anyone behind him. There's no rookie behind him. I see him as a sleeper running back that can give you RB numbers, more of a flex guy, but who can when healthy give you RB2 numbers for very, very cheap. That's my buy, James Conner.
Yeah, James Conner's made a lot of owners look really smart last couple of years. Just getting consistent play, just underrated. So he's been truly underrated since joining the Cardinals. Gabe, who's your buy and sell?
I mean, I don't want to jump against that, what Adrian just said, but I'm actually going to sell James Conner in this.
Oh.
I think a big stat here, and it's really more. It has nothing to really do with him, but the offensive line currently, according to Pro Football Focus, is ranked 31st in the NFL.
Wow.
I think any running back outside of King Henry, of course, but any other back that's going to be playing with that kind of offensive lineman, you don't have your quarterback guy. He's not there. And you also have to factor into he does have a history of injuries. Missed 4 games last year, left 3 other games early because of injuries. I think he's one of those other guys, kind of like in a Stafford, where there's a lot stacked against him. He has to deal with the injuries. He's going to have to deal with the offensive line. And also, too, they may not get the opportunity, to run the ball as much as they actually want in Arizona. I think this is going to, they're going to have to chuck it as much as they possibly can, which leads into my buy, which is Hollywood Brown. Yeah. I don't think anyone has really talked much about Brown. Last year in the 8 games without Hopkins, he averaged nearly 13 points a game. I think he's going to be the guy. I think him and Ertz. I thought about Ertz, but I think Hollywood Brown is going to be the guy. He's going to be more of a, hey, look, we're down by 14. We got to make this work. Who's our fastest guy out there? Who's the guy out there is going to step into that wide receiver 1 role? I'm buying Hollywood Brown here. I think Hollywood Brown is going to have more production than a James Conner. And I love what you said. James Conner has made a lot of owners look very smart in recent years. But however, I just think there's a lot going against him. And I think there's a lot more going for Brown.
I don't agree with you, but I like the Hollywood Brown take. So all is good.
Yeah, I almost chose Hollywood Brown. I really struggled with him. I just didn't love what was that quarterback with it wasn't Kyler Murray. I think Rondell Moore was actually Colt McCoy's guy when he was in. But I don't know. We'll see. I think with the last time Marquise Brown was the number one on the team with Lamar Jackson, he was a top 10 receiver. So don't hate the take. If he's the guy, he's shown he could do it before. But we'll see. That's the Cardinals. Of course, these first two teams, it's kind of rough because I went in very excited about them, and then once you really look at their what they did this offseason and kind of where they are as a franchise, it's tough to project very good seasons for them. They'll have some fun fantasy options, but I don't think any of us see them winning this division. Good news for us, we have two teams left who we're very excited about.
Some dogs.
Who can definitely win a division. Who are right up there with the best teams in the NFC, period. So we'll get into the Seahawks next, and then the Niners. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. The Seattle Seahawks are our next team here in the NFC West. Finished 9-8 last year, which is just not at all what I would have guessed if someone would have asked me. It seemed like they did so much better. I mean, what did it seem like that to you guys?
I think the quarterback plays what kind of carried the fans and the franchise, got them really excited, got them amped up for this year. I can tell you that. So they did accomplish their mission last year.
Yeah.
Also, this is the first year after trading their quarterback for the last 10 years. You thought, okay, this is going to be a down year. Positivity coming out of that place was crazy. So I could see why this would be.
Yeah.
You would think they've had better record, but solid team. I love this team.
As you guys say that, I think of to that first game when Russ came back to the 12 there. He came back to Seattle, and Geno Smith looked like, wow. And I think in that moment, we all thought, good for you, Geno. You're still not the guy, but, good for you to show up this one game.
Definitely going to get a contract. You're definitely going to get a backup contract somewhere.
A year later, look at where we are with these two guys. It's amazing. Seahawks could have hoped for anything better. They have a guy that they can compete with. They can legit. I mean, you look at what's we'll talk about the quarterback situation in San Francisco, which is their biggest hurdle this year, especially in that division. Geno Smith is every bit the quarterback Brock Purdy has been. So
can I just share? Can I share what he did last year?
Sure.
It's people really forget what he did. Okay,
yeah.
He started all 17 games. He led Seattle to a 9-8 record and a playoff berth. He won AP Comeback Player of the Year. He led the NFL in completions per percentage in 69.8. Finished top 10 in touchdown passes and in passer rating. Set the franchise record in one season for completion percentage, attempts, passing yards, and completions. He broke all Russell Wilson's records. Wow, it's insane. After being marked as a bust his whole career, this guy, you can't do anything but cheer for this guy. And you hear him in interviews, he's humble about it. He's hardworking. He wants to play football. You just love it.
This out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. We all would not be surprised if he was out of the league.
Yeah.
That's how
it was legit. It was a legit competition between him and Drew Lock.
Yeah.
And at that point, we're like, oh, this is going to be bad. These are two quarterbacks who haven't done it, whatever. Yeah.
Wild. Good for Geno. He gets a new contract. Yeah. It's I think a 2-year contract, but I think it could be voided after a year. I think he'll probably get 2, and they'll look to see, what's next. But he'll get a shot here. He'll get a chance at a couple playoff runs, most likely. I'll go through quickly their additions and subtractions here. They added some trenches, right? So they had Evan Brown, a kind of a center guard type hybrid. They had Mario Edwards to the D-line, Draymond Jones, Gabe's boy, Jaron Reed, to the D-line, lightning fast linebacker, Devin Bush. They bring back the leader of that defense that was so good back with the Legion of Boom, right? They bring back Bobby Wagner after his not so great season in LA. He comes back home to Seattle, and they also bring in safety Julian Love there, and I believe they get their safety back, their star safety from the Jets, who I cannot remember his freaking name.
Jamal Adams.
Why am I thinking Earl Thomas? God.
Different realms of
Earl
safety there,
Thomas.
man.
It's
I'm not
late.
sure where
Don't
Earl
do
Thomas
that.
is
It's
at
late.
right
I
now.
was at SeaWorld all day holding my kids.
Is there Earl Thomas in the bed with his brother or something
Stop.
like that?
Stop.
What was that thing?
Just let that be. Just
Yeah,
let
let's
him be.
leave
I'm
that
not
alone.
sure what he's doing.
No, we shouldn't let people like that be. He needs to be stopped. That's what needs to
They
happen.
had a hell of a draft in
That man's
Seattle.
crazy.
They go number 5 overall, Devin Witherspoon. Maybe the best cornerback in the draft. We'll see. Between him and Gonzalez and another guy, I forgot who he is. They also draft in the first round Jackson Smith and Jigba at number 20.
Love that.
And he was projected as a stud. So far, what we've seen of him in training camp, he looks like a absolute stallion there next to Lockett and Metcalf. Scary, scary stuff. Awesome for Geno Smith, obviously.
And Derek Hall, second round, Auburn.
Derek Hall, Zach Charbonnet. They draft also in the second round. I mean, 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. Thank you, Denver Broncos. Zach Charbonnet also comes to town. And then they draft another guard in the 4th round, Anthony Bradford. We'll see if he cracks the starting rotation. Major work here to this offensive line after the 2 tackles they drafted last year were better than expected. They did have the fair share of struggles, but they were rookies. And I think are decent building blocks there. They lose a handful of players here. Longtime running backs, Travis Homer and Rashad Penny, no longer in town. Gabe Jackson, LJ Collier, Bruce Irvin, no longer there. Poona Ford, Shelby Harrison, and Quentin Jefferson, along with Al Woods, all gone from that defensive line. Cornerback Artie Burns gone, and safety Denver Bronco legend. Sorry, not Denver, Oakland Raider legend, Las Vegas Raider legend, Jonathan Abram, also gone. One of Angel's favorite players. He absolutely loves him, some Jonathan Abram.
Just good. I don't want to start.
We've had these conversations for years. He does not like him. I'm being sarcastic. He's not a big Jonathan Abram fan.
No, I see.
0%.
I hate that. I hate that because that's crap. I've been getting this OJ Howard crap now for a couple episodes, but whatever.
Hey, I said it. I brought it up.
I'm not bitter.
I brought it up. So a lot of talent in, but a lot of talent out, but a lot of talent in here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Between this rookie class and the handful of veterans they brought in, with what they did last year as a nice building block, this team could be very, very interesting. As far as weapons, they have them as good as anyone else in the league. Tyler Lockett's one of the most underrated receivers for his almost entire career. DK Metcalf is DK Metcalf. Now they bring in JSN. They have in the backfield there to join Charbonnet, of course, last year's breakout rookie Kenneth Walker, a revitalized Geno Smith at the helm. It looks like an NFC West that is, aside from the Niners, there for the taking. This could be a very just exciting year for the Seahawks, and not at all, I think, where they saw themselves 2 years, only a year removed from losing their franchise quarterback, Russell Wilson. I'm pretty excited with the Seahawks.
And defensively, they're getting better slowly. They got Draymond Jones, who's an underrated pass rusher. They brought in also safety, DB, cornerback Julian Love. Now they have a 3-headed rotation at safety with Diggs, Adams, and now Love. Yeah. They've drafted well last year at corner. They drafted again a corner this year in Witherspoon. Defensively, they're coming together. They're not going to be what they were, obviously, with Legion of Boom. But I like what this team's doing on both sides of the ball. But I want to give them a shot. They kind of killed this offseason, as they should. Pete Carroll, veteran coach, is showing why he's a good head coach. Just saying, I could transform into a different type of team here.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Tariq Woolen, the cornerback from last year.
Yeah,
he doesn't get any. Well, he does get some, but he doesn't get as much as Sauce Gardner, and you think of Patrick Surtain. Some of these other young cornerbacks. Tariq Woolen is every bit of the cornerback that those guys are. He might have been statistically, I think, Pro Football Focus, he was the best rookie cornerback last year. And that's saying something because Sauce Gardner had an all-time year.
Yeah.
So I don't know if PFF numbers is your end all. It's not mine. But for him to rank that way with those numbers, you got to give this guy respect. Along with Kobe Bryant, who had his struggles, but also a very young cornerback who was kind of just thrown out there. You gotta love what they're doing in the defensive backfield here. It's
and then throwing Witherspoon into that a top 5 talent.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah, and of course we've talked about what they have offensively. With this team, I think it's Geno Smith. We're all very excited about him. Still, though, very unproving in the playoffs. And I don't care, as much of a feel good story as it is, we don't give passes to people in the playoffs. We always have to see it. Even with the best of quarterbacks, you think of Jalen Hurts going into the playoffs, but even more, maybe like a Joe Burrow. Before they did it, as good as they were in the regular season, we still had all had to say, got to see it in the playoffs. Got to see them do it in the playoffs. It's a different animal.
Right.
And we got to see that from Geno still.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I
think a guy too. Just add on really quick. I think bring in like a guy like Wagner. I mean, again, I know he's not there to do something big, but it's about that culture, man. You want to bring a leader in there. You got a lot of young cornerbacks here. You got a lot of young talent there. Maybe that was a great signing. Hey, look, we got the talent. Let's glue it all with some leadership now. Wagner could be that guy. He could definitely pull a team together.
That's a great point, because he's going to walk into that locker room and he's going to have the respect of
full control
every single one of those guys instantly. This is a man who has won a Super Bowl in that building, wearing those colors with that head coach. He's the last one remaining. Everyone else is gone. Everyone else is in the media and retired and gone. Not just gone, but out of the league, like not on other teams. Like he's still playing. He's still maybe not the guy that he was back then, but I think that's a great point. The leadership of that from Bobby Wagner here could be one of those intangible things that also take them to the next level, that the players might point to when maybe many analysts and many NFL shows won't.
Yeah.
Let's get into their fantasy aspect here. I'll go first here with my buy. I'm buying Geno because of the weapons. I think he's going to fall into 25 to 30 touchdowns here, just having those weapons. And with that as a baseline, we'll see where he can take it. I think he's going to be. He was very careful with the ball last year. With those weapons, he's going to throw for a lot of touchdowns. He'll still give you every now and then something with his legs. Not one of the sexier names when you go to a fantasy draft. If he's there in those middle rounds and it's him or a Matthew Stafford, more than likely people are going to have a hard time passing on a guy like Stafford when they should be taking Geno Smith. I think Geno's a great guy to have here in a QB1 or QB2 league. I'm taking Geno.
Yeah, that's also real quick. That's my buy. I'll just echo you real quick. Last year he threw for 30 touchdowns. People don't realize that. So if you added first round talent and you add more depth to the offensive line, and then you add another talented running back, I think Geno Smith is just the benefactor of these 3 talented wideouts, 2 talented running backs, and up and coming. PFF had this offensive line, great start, poor finish. So if they could balance out just from have 1 year of experience under their belt, Geno Smith might throw for 35 touchdowns this year, and obviously that's great for fantasy, and that's great for in real life football. So I'm all on board Geno Smith fantasy wise this year.
Real quick before Gabe gives his buy, if he throws for 35 to 40 touchdowns, he finishes I think QB7 last year or 9, QB7 or 9, somewhere right there. If he throws, that could propel him to you're thinking maybe quarterback 6 is in play, quarterback 5 is in play for where he's going in drafts. He's going to be overlooked this year. He's going to be overlooked. If you have a chance to snag him, I would for sure. Gabe, who's your buy?
So a lot of talk about the talent they're bringing in, the young talent they're bringing. I still think there is a top dog on this team. DK is the guy. Finished last year as wide receiver 24 in points per game and wide receiver 17 overall. I understand those numbers aren't outstanding, but all the young talent around him, I think he's going to be able to just thrive, work alone, maybe be on an island outside with some poor cornerback trying to guard him. A big number here a big stat that I love here. He tied for second overall in red zone targets last year with the great Justin Jefferson. I love DK here. I think the talent around him is going to allow him to play a lot of man-to-man. I still don't understand why teams try to do it with him. And last year, also, let's not forget, he answered the big question of can he play without Russell Wilson, and he was able to do so. So I'm buying Metcalf here. I like Geno. Honestly, I like this whole offense, but I still think the main guy, the man in that locker room, as far as the offense goes, give me DK Metcalf.
Yeah, can't go wrong with DK. And he's so far overcome every quote unquote fantasy obstacle that's come his way.
Oh yeah,
Quarterback,
for sure.
Tyler Lockett being a stud, he's kept it going, and I love that red zone stat because he's as good as JSN is, and as good as those running backs are. That big athletic body, and I know
You got to go to him. You got to go to him.
Yeah,
in the red zone.
Angel, I know I said it. I talked about his big athletic body.
You
But
guys are
Geno
really-
Smith loves him. Some DK Metcalf in the red zone, and that's gonna keep him. That's gonna keep his floor pretty high.
Yeah.
Who's your sell, Angel?
Kenneth Walker. Sorry, Gabe. It's Kenneth Walker. Last year finished off 1,000 yards, nine touchdowns, but he had some injury stuff last year, and he's already had injury stuff this year. And also, they drafted a second-round running back, Zach Charbonnet. He's injured now, but still, when you draft a guy in the second round at the running back position, you're going to use him, especially in this offense where, Geno Smith will have his touchdowns, but at the end of the day, Pete Carroll wants to run the ball. He wants to run the ball with physicality, and I just don't think I think it's to be more split than people are giving it credit for. Kenneth Walker isn't overly amazing pass catching. I know he had catches last year, but he more operated off of volume and off of targets and off of talent. So I'm not taking the split backfield of any running back situation. I know it's hard to find workhorses, and that's why these guys are tough. But I'm out on Kenneth Walker this year. I think he's just going to split carries or have a 60-40 share of and you don't know who's going to get the red zone opportunities either. So I'm out on Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, that's my sell as well. So I'll go next. I'm out on him, and I'm out on him if you have to spend significant draft capital on him.
Yeah,
I'm out on him in the first 6 to 7 rounds. I'm out on him as an RB1. I still like him as a player. I still like him as a talent. Don't love that he's already hurt. Don't love that they drafted a second round pass catching specialist running back, Zach Charbonnet. And even you think of I even think of Jackson Smith and Jigba, because although he's not a running back and won't be taking carries, he'll be taking touchdowns away. That's 5 or more touchdowns that are not going to go to the running backs and to another receiver when these receivers already demand so much of the touchdown share. They throw another one in there, and now whatever remains is split between 2 backs. I'm with you here. I don't like either of these guys as a consistent RB1. We'll see what happens if this injury here lingers for Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet gets the nod right off the bat. Then you have the whole game of, okay, when does Walker get back? When needs to get ramped up? Okay, what does this backfield look like with these guys fully healthy? And who knows when that'll be? And so, yeah, I'm out on both these guys. Really, you probably list them both as set it and forget it RB1s, which is what they're being drafted as. So I'm gonna echo you there, Gabe. Who's your sell?
So this one was hard because, again, you said it earlier, he's been proving owners wrong for years now. But I'm going to sell Lockett here, and it's not based on anything that he doesn't do, because again, I'm going to sell him. The only reason why I'm going to sell him, it's not because of anything that he's doing, or I think he's downgrading, anything like that. But when you draft JSN, you got 2 running backs, you got DK there. I think just with that talent, those are 4 guys right there that could dominate the offense. And you got Smith that's going to be kind of like deciding where he's going to go. I think just by natural selection, he's going to be the odd man out. And again, it's hard to root against Lockett because, just like you said, for years he proves owners wrong. I get it, but I just think there's a lot of mouths to feed there. They're going to want to get the young guys involved early on. DK, of course, is my buy. I think he's still going to get the attention in the red zone. I think touchdowns will be taken away from Lockett, where he might still be good on paper. Fantasy-wise, I think he's the odd man out.
So you think Jackson Smith-Njigba takes it from Lockett more than he will from Metcalf?
I think he takes more pause. I think he takes more fantasy opportunities. Yeah, that was a good one, Angel.
Who's taking what? When
you said pause and I thought back to, oh God, what did I just say? And I played back on what I said. I thought, What are you doing? You can't set him up like that.
I honestly hate
lob and then a slam.
Yeah.
I honestly hate that that's a thing with our sports show because it's like how many things are we going to say that sound remotely, you know what?
I don't do it.
But
I just hear it and I respond accordingly.
Yeah.
You guys do it. It's your
anyways,
fault.
God, sorry.
that's just where I'm at. That's just where I'm at. I think he's going to be the odd man out. I think it's hard to bet against him, but I'm going to bet against him here.
Quick for you guys, both of you, one at a time. Gabe first. Seahawks, do they finish better than their 9-8 from last year?
Yes, barely. I see 10, possibly 11.
Angel.
I do think they finish better.
Yeah, I'll be with Gabe. I'll give him 10.
10. Yeah, I think so too. I think 11's a good number. Haven't looked at the schedule. Just sounds good to me. I think they're just a little better. I think they're going to win a couple more of those close games, and we'll see. Very excited about the Seahawks. Go Big 12, or whatever you guys call yourselves. The 12th man. Sorry.
The 12th man. Big
12th
12.
man.
Go 12th man. Sorry. Didn't grow up a Seahawks fan. Let's move over to the favorites of the division, the big dogs in the division, and rightfully so, the San Francisco 49ers. Shanahan has it going over there, no matter who is at quarterback, it seems, except for they're playing the Eagles in the playoffs. But no matter who's at quarterback, he seems to find a way. Running backs going down, losing defensive coordinators every year. The guys keeping it on the tracks, and it's impressive. The run they're on is very impressive, and it seems like at some point they're going to mess around and win a Super Bowl. And I'm sure Niner fans hoping it's this year. They went 13-4 last year. Of course, they lose multiple quarterbacks in that playoff game to the Eagles and don't make it, past that. But many Niner fans believe, like with all their heart, I've spoken to them, that they would have beat the Eagles and they would have given the Chiefs a run for their money.
Shut up! Stop crying about it. Get over it.
Maybe they're right.
We would have done it. We would have done well. Guard. What was the guy who talked? Oh, I can't.
Hassan Reddick.
Guard. Block Hassan Reddick now with a tight end, please. That's how you get.
I'm sure Niner fans are saying the same thing.
But we shut up.
The fact remains that they did not have their best team out there for 4 quarters, and that's got to sting for a fan base.
That's the game, though, man. Like, I mean, look,
listen, you're making it real hard. As an Eagle fan, I'm trying my freaking best to be fair and positive about this team.
No,
and you guys aren't letting me.
I just didn't like the way they ended with Debo and with all that going on. It's like, look, that's the name of the game, especially when it comes to playoff ball, is that everyone's hurt. You have to overcome that, whether it's good coaching, whether it's good depth. I just don't. I hated the way they ended off. Look, you lost to a very good team. There's nothing to be ashamed about.
Yeah.
As
an Eagle fan, I'm not going to say anything. I'm gonna decide on that. I like the Niners. I like them as an organization. I like them as a roster for sure. I've always liked them. I love their head coach. And let's see who they added here in the offseason. They add a couple quarterbacks, Brandon Allen and Sam Darnold. I don't get what they're doing at quarterback. They're still trying to sell this thing that Trey Lance is still, they want a couple, maybe second or maybe a first round pick back for him. Or
this is like the equivalent of, no, dude, she's way cuter in person. She's way cuter in person, dude. Like, bro, she's not hot. Okay,
is that how they sell it to GMs? Like, you got to see him in person. I know and that really you could only see him in person because you haven't seen him on the field.
Yeah.
And
those picks.
Man, you're such a douchebag, dude.
I mean,
I'm being serious, man.
In that monsoon that he played in Chicago last year, and then he got hurt, and then he was done. And now you just see kind of him on a high school field throwing to some guy, and that's all you see now, just Instagram videos. But we'll see if he ever cracks the starting lineup again. I know in their depth chart, Sam Darnold's in front of him already. Brock Purdy's rumored to be back sooner than what everyone thinks. And so I don't know whatever happens here to Trey Lance. Did they just kind of let him fade away and hope no one remembers that they just massively blew that pick? Or do they do what I think they should do? And I hate calling them an irresponsible franchise, but the way they're treating this is the way an irresponsible franchise treats this thing. Move them. Go get what you can and move on.
Yeah.
Admit your loss. It's happened before. It'll happen again. you can't be mad at yourself for taking a swing at a guy and it didn't work out. As a prospect, there's so much to like about him, just didn't work out.
You have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to acknowledge that you made a mistake.
Yeah. So think about this quarterback switch they have. Out goes Garoppolo, out goes Josh Johnson, in comes Sam Darnold and Brandon Allen. Uninspiring.
Isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy with
guys.
How good the Niners have been if they just nailed the quarterback spot where they would be today?
Yeah. They just so desperately need Purdy to be healthy. Because any one of these guys, it's not happening. It's not happening with Brandon Allen. Stop that. It's not happening with Sam Darnold. I don't care what these preseason reports are that he's looking good. It's not happening with him. It needs to be Purdy. That's the guy that is going to be – it's the best fit for their offense. He knows what to do. He makes quick, decisive decisions, and it needs to be Purdy. Hopefully he's back. They also add Chris Conley, offensive tackle Matt Pryor, Clelin Farrell gets his second team now with the Niners. I think he's a fun add to that defensive line. And they, of course, make the big addition here in the middle of that line and bring in Javon Hargrave from the Eagles, give him a massive contract there, pair him with Bosa and
Armstead.
It is Armstead. Yeah, Armstead and Kinlaw and those boys. And this defensive line is very deep and, proven. They draft. They didn't have much as far as draft picks. I like the safety they took in the third round from Penn State, Jared Brown, especially since they lost Jimmy Ward this offseason. Like I mentioned earlier, they lose Garoppolo. I think, Garoppolo and Josh Johnson. Garoppolo, of course, goes over to the Raiders. Tyler Kroft gone. Mike McGlinchey gone. Samson Ebukam gone. Azeez Al-Shahir gone. Emmanuel Mosley gone. Jason Verrett gone. Jimmy Ward gone. So some hits there. To that defensive backfield, I think especially that stands out.
And D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico Ryans also gone.
Great point. Yeah, D'Amico Ryans, for the second straight year, they lose their defensive coordinator. I don't know how many DCs they're going to be able to lose and maintain.
They got Steve Wilkes, who was he wasn't a bad DC. I know he was the interim head coach last year for the Carolina Panthers. He was also the head coach once upon a time in Arizona for the Josh Rosen for the Josh Rosen experience. So he has experience. He has a. We'll see if maybe in 2 years maybe he gets another chance at. It seems like defensive coordinators for the Niners always get head coaching spots. So
I don't see Wilkes getting that though. I like the Wilkes hire for that reason. I don't think much like who was the guy in the Broncos, the defensive coordinator.
Wade Phillips.
He was kind of done with his head coaching run. Jim Schwartz, these guys who are really good DCs that have had their try at head coaching jobs. It hasn't worked out, and they're pretty much just defensive coordinator now. I think Wilkes is that same way. If he works out, I could see him there for a couple of years to come here. So I think a nice addition for them. But this is really about Brock Purdy, about the playoffs, and kind of about what is happening over there. Good God.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good, man. I'm upstairs. So I know it's not an earthquake.
Nope. Definitely not an earthquake.
I was saying this season is about Brock Purdy and how far he can take them. And is he healthy? Can he stay healthy? And can he answer the bell? Because something people don't talk about in that playoff game is that before he got hurt, and I know he got hurt very early, but before he got hurt, it's not like that Niners offense was buzzing. They were struggling before he got hurt, and then he got knocked out of the game. And so we haven't seen Purdy really do it in that. And those NFC playoffs last year were kind of funky because you had some teams in there that traditionally you wouldn't be very afraid of. I think of the Giants. I think of even the Seahawks last year were kind of surprised to be there. So I don't know. I got to see Purdy doing the playoffs, but that's what this team's all about. They've reached that plateau now where they are Super Bowl or bust at this point. Because this roster is in its prime. Bosa's in his prime. You signed Javon Hargrave to the big deal. Your window is open now, and are you going to capitalize? Debo's just getting older. Ayuk's
now or never.
Prime. Kittle's getting older. Yeah. So I mean, how do you guys see it? The Niners, of course, consensus number 2 in the NFC. Are you guys with that?
Yeah, definitely below Philly. You know,
I think start
we'll see
Purdy
what
as much as you can.
Seattle can do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think of Seattle. I think of Detroit a little bit. Of course, you got to think of the Vikings. And who else we'll see. But I think those are the teams that are kind of in that upper echelon. I think they're not shoe in, but I think they should be very heavily favored to win this division. I think they're the best team from top to bottom if they could just figure out that quarterback situation, which is such a bummer to say because we thought we had figured it out last year with Purdy, but of course he's injured. Let's go over to the.
Would it shock you at all if like Seattle actually were to take this division?
No, because Seattle, they've had success against the Niners. They know them. They're not afraid of them. Those battles, those Seahawks Niners battles, are always close. They're not ever blowing out each other because they're just so familiar with each other. They play each other not only so many times, but so many times where they're both legit contenders and the games are big and the lights are bright and they both play well. Like they're both not backing down that situation. They both have incredible leaders as head coaches.
Yeah.
And I just think, no, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Seahawks.
I think like the quarterback too. Like, I mean, Seattle has more of a hold on the quarterback spot than the 49ers do. I mean, it seems like Seattle, I mean, possibly squeeze out 11 games. Is it realistic to say the Niners can win 10, 11, probably tie with the record, but Seattle could possibly have a tiebreaker? I don't know.
Probably.
It just seems like it's more realistic.
You know what's crazy to think about is that a couple of years ago, you think of Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, you had Russell Wilson in Seattle, and yet just 2 years later, Geno Smith might be the best quarterback in this division.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable, man.
Like in fantasy, you want Geno Smith over Matthew
Stafford. Other quarterback. Yeah.
Like it's just crazy that's where we are now. And a big part of that because the Niners just haven't been able to figure it out. And to their credit, they've taken shots. They've taken shots at guys. It hasn't worked out. Let's get to their fantasy aspect here. Angel, who's your buy, and go and give your sell as well.
My buy this year for the Niners is Brandon Ayuk. Last year, he set career highs with targets, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. He finished as wideout 2023. Reports out of camp is that he's the best player on the field, offense, defense. I think he's going to be a value pick. I think because there's so many other sexier weapons there.
Yeah.
There's Christian McCaffrey. There's Deebo Samuel. There's George Kittle, you've heard their voices. You've seen them on fantasy apps, on magazines, whatever. You've seen them. You don't ever hear or see Brandon Ayuk. I think he's a great value pick. You probably a flex, more a very solid, very good flex, a very solid wideout too. I don't think he ever reaches the wideout one just because of the limitations of the targets that he's going to get or lack of targets. Yeah. He's my buy this year. And my sell's actually the other side. My sell's actually Deebo Samuel.
Yep.
He finished. Look, if you didn't know it, if you didn't have him on your team, you thought top 15 Deebo. He finished at wideout 28 last year. Although he had a strong target share, his ADOT was 4.2, which is 102nd in the league. He only saw 5 deep targets, which ranked 108th in the league. And he only had 12 red zone looks, which ranked 36th in the league. A lot of his production comes from running the ball or big running plays but ever since Christian McCaffrey has come, his targets have gone down and his rush attempts have gone down. I think his production fell from 22-1 from wideout 3 to wideout obviously 28, from 21 points a game to 13 points a game. I think you're gonna buy when you see him in the 4th, 5th round, you're gonna see Deebo Samuel, number 1 option, exciting guy. You draft him, then you realize there's a lot of mouths to feed, and not only that, he has to be really, really productive with his touches. Not saying that you can't. And then also for him, injuries have been a big part of why he hasn't been consistent top 5, which he can be. I'm just out on the price tag of Deebo Samuel, not the talent or the ability. The price tag of Deebo Samuel, I'm out on that. He's my sell. Don't overpay for Deebo Samuel.
That's pretty interesting because I'm actually going to buy him here. I like Deebo. He had some comments this offseason where he talked about his contract negotiations really distracted him. He's ready for a bounce back year in which going from last year, which he called awful and sluggish. Also, another report saying that he had a film session with Coach Shanahan, and his response to that was that he will never put nothing on tape like that again. I think with the poor quarterback play that we were just talking about right now, Shanahan's going to get real creative. I agree about, Christian McCaffrey comes into town. He takes a lot of those targets away from him, but Shanahan's going to draw him. I honestly believe Shanahan has a lot planned for him. I can't speak on the numbers. I fully agree with you. You can't argue facts, but I like what Devo said. I like how he said, "Hey, look, I had these negotiations. They were distracting me, this and that. I don't know if I believe him or not, but I'm just taking his word for it." And then outside of that, just working with the head coach in the offseason, poor quarterback play. They're going to draw something up for Debo. I'm high on him right now. Like, I like him up. Any other running back not named Christian McCaffrey? I think it's that simple. Honorable mention is Elijah Mitchell, who I think is clearly the number 2 guy, but 2 straight seasons without being able to stay healthy. He's a handcuff to Christian McCaffrey. I don't see him and it's not just specifically him, but it's just Christian McCaffrey just has such a stranglehold on this running back room right now. This is his team when it comes to running back. So anyone else that falls behind them, and I know people kind of still believe in Mitchell. There's actually a lot of talk on the internet with people saying, he can still be very productive on this offense, but I'm just not buying him. Again, the injury thing is a big thing for me, and Christian McCaffrey is just he's a fantasy stud. It's very hard to buy anything else behind him for sure.
Yeah,
unless it's a handcuff.
Yeah, I'm out on George Kittle. And it was hard for me to choose between Kittle and Debo. And it's not for the same reasons that Angel said. Those both to me, those guys are both so touchdown dependent at this point in their career. And it's just so hard to predict who's going to get those touchdowns in his offense. Who's going to catch the screen that makes it? Who's going to run the end around that makes it? Kind of quirky plays that these guys are scoring on. George Kittle last year had a career high 11 touchdowns, which is awesome, right? But he had since his rookie season, the lowest average yards per game, which means he was not a huge part of this offense. He was just getting the touchdowns. So unless he's going to get those touchdowns consistently, that's the one thing in fantasy you cannot predict. Like there's obviously some trends, but guys have huge touchdown years, and then the next year, you think of Miles Sanders, 0 touchdowns one year, 11 the next year. That thing can just fluctuate so much. I'm out on George Kittle. And I'm buying Brandon Ayuk. I think for the value, I'm buying him. I don't see him as a wide receiver 1 either. I think he's a flex or a nice wide receiver 2 option. And for all, I have the same numbers Angel read about the career high in targets, yards, and receiving touchdowns as a wide receiver 23 last year. He's getting drafted well behind Debo Samuel and even like George Kittle and obviously Christian McCaffrey. And I think he's kind of a diamond in the rough back there where if you get him on your team, it might even be hard to trade him for what he's really worth because he's so underrated. I am with George Kittle. I'm sorry, with Brandon Ayuk and out on George Kittle. And that is the Niners. They're my pick for this division. They're my pick for the NFC Championship game. They're not my Super Bowl pick. That's my Eagles. But I believe in this team. I think you guys all would echo that. And that's the NFC West. Fun division. Super competitive division, and it's going to be a good one to watch. Okay, that's our show for today. Wednesday, we'll see you Friday. Of course, we wrapped up this divisional breakdown. So Friday, you get a new show, big rankings / power rankings / predictions show as far as where we are right now in the preseason. We'll update it a couple times as we go through the preseason, but our first one of this preseason, super pumped about that. We're going to kind of let you know. We've done teams. Now we're going to go specifically to the top players and start talking that. And I'm sure arguing our top 10 because that gets contentious.
I love this.
Yeah. Comment below maybe some of your lists if you're on listening on YouTube. Real quick note before we end here: Saints running back Alvin Kamara is expected to meet Wednesday with Commissioner Roger Goodell regarding his potential suspension. Kamara reached a plea agreement in July and is no longer facing a felony charge for his role in a fight on the eve of the Pro Bowl. So keep an eye on that news with Alvin Kamara as we roll along here. Of course, if he faces suspension, go draft Kendry Miller. We've talked about all that. Anything else, guys? Anything else you got? to add to the show there at
No.
the end here? Tack on at the end?
No, just looking forward to. I saw the trailer for Hard Knocks, and it was just it's
Oof.
gonna be amazing. The trailer,
Good.
it's gonna be so good.
It's gonna be good.
Hard Knocks is gonna have phenomenal numbers this year because of the team they picked. They just picked the right team.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a lot about.
George Pickens, really quick. I don't know if you guys saw that highlight catch,
You
but
sent me that.
super athlete, man. I cannot wait to watch this kid play ball.
Yeah, George Pickens, of course. I think he's like 22 now, 21 now. Young,
just
and
a
just a
dog,
playmaker.
man.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Go ahead and share it with a friend. Share the YouTube page with a friend. Share the Instagram with a friend. You can find us on Instagram, X, or TikTok. Search at Benched Show. Find us on YouTube. Search Benched with the Tovar Brothers. And same thing on Apple or Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. That's Benched with the Tovar Brothers. Thank you so much for your support. We've had a good time with these breakdowns. It's been good, but I'm ready to get into some football, into some players, into some highlights. It's going to be fun. Catch us Wednesday. And
Friday,
have a good week.
Friday.
Sorry, Friday. Jeez. It's been a long day. We'll see you Friday. Hopefully,
Later, guys.
See ya.
Bye.